Well, of course, South Africa is just the latest operation you have started in Africa. You have a number, including Lagos, where you are at the moment. What's your game plan for Africa?
You know, we see Africa as being the area of fastest economic growth globally over the next couple of decades. We don't have any reservations at all about that. We see the landscape as being terribly uncompetitive, very poorly understood by investors and many of our competitors. So we see a tremendous competitive opportunity to build a dominant platform right across the continent in securities, sales and trading, research, capital markets, and various areas of principal investment.
So would really this just be your starting position with the 5 operations you now have in Africa, South Africa, the latest edition? Would you be looking at making more acquisitions across the continent?
We have another acquisition which we're close to closing, and there's another 4 or 5 countries we would expect to enter by the middle of this year within the region.
How does it fit into your broader emerging market offering? Because you're also in Eastern Europe, you're obviously in Russia. How about Asia as well?
No, we intend to dominate the emerging market space from West Africa to the east of the former Soviet Union. They're huge population areas, very undeveloped capital markets, very fast growing, and very leveraged to the global convergence we have within emerging markets. Asia is a very important distribution point for us. We've been selling quite a number of assets to Asian, particularly Chinese and Indian buyers in the last 18 months. We're in the process of getting our securities license in Hong Kong. We see Hong Kong to a significant degree supplanting the role that London has typically played with the distribution of emerging market securities. Rusell, which is a transaction which we played a very active role in January, is I think going to be the first of many deals which will be placed in Asia. So Asia is an important distribution point, but the geographic focus for us are the big former CIS markets and particularly sub-Saharan Africa.
Well, Stephen, you talked about Africa being underserviced to this point. Of course, South Africa perhaps a slightly different story, and you will be facing quite stiff competition in the South African market, I should imagine. How are you going to take that on?
Yeah, I don't think we have any illusions about how developed and how sophisticated and how competitive South Africa is, but a lot of parallels with Russia. Russia's one of the biggest capital markets in the emerging markets. New issuance has been a lot bigger than South Africa, and we've faced the full force of international competition there, and we've built a business model which is more specialized. We have higher quality people, we have stronger industry specialization, and we have consistently been able to beat the international houses by taking our markets much more seriously. And we see South Africa in exactly the same vein. We don't want to be presumptuous. We know it is competitive, but we have no doubt that we will bring a much bigger level of commitment and specialization than our international peers. We'll also integrate the South African platform with a Pan-African platform, and also create the links, the industry links, with our other geographies. So we'll bring something on the product side which is not there from our competitors at the current point in time.
Of course, as you said, BJM Securities is just your starting position in the South African market. How are you going to expand that? What other offerings are you going to put in there? Corporate advisory services, M&A advisory, capital and debt markets. Are you going to give a full offering from South Africa?
No, we've already hired Clifford Sacks and Tony Marcia as our CEO and head of trading. So the platform will be much more integrated within our global distribution. So, we have leading international distribution in North America and Europe for our core geographies, and leading and number 1 ranked research. So we'll create that integration. BJM is a fantastic franchise that hasn't focused so much on capital markets historically. That is an area of dominance for us in our traditional markets. So we'd like to bring our capital markets expertise to bear within that platform. And as you've mentioned, M&A, we have very strong industry focus within a number of the industries, metals and mining, and other areas which are critical for South Africa. So that is something else we'll be looking to bring to the table very quickly.
Of course, Stephen, we've seen huge foreign interest in South African equities, South African debt over the past couple of years, talking about all this carry trade that's coming from foreign investors. How long do you see this continuing for? When do you think it might start to taper off a little bit?
clearly we will have short-term volatility, but fundamentally we are living through a global shift in the economic paradigm, with economic power, the centre of economic growth, moving very quickly away from the more developed markets. The focus of growth globally is in the emerging markets, and we can see the kind of structural problems that the West has, which I think they're going to be living with for a very long period of time. A corollary of that is going to be a huge movement in capital into markets like South Africa, and a relative re-rating of exchange rates and asset prices. So in that sense, we're at the early stages of a very long process which we'd like to participate in.